Hey everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is the co-founder of Rossell Studios, which is a full-service creative and design studio with an emphasis on luxury mural experiences. The company has collaborated with brands like Nike, Levi's, Rimowa, Skullcandy, and Warner Brothers, and has been featured in Vogue, ESPN, Women's Wear Daily, and Hypebeast. He's also painted in countries including Brazil and Japan. Thank you so much for being here today, Evan Rossell.
Thanks for having me, Chelsea.
Of course. I think I was first introduced to your art when you painted the mural in Huntington Beach. And for listeners who don't know, it's between this like walkway between Perks and Jack's. And embarrassing. But I remember I was going to Huntington High at the time and everyone was talking about this mural. And me and my girlfriends were like, we're planning a day and we're going to go take photos for Facebook. And they're still up on my Facebook to this day.
That's amazing.
So it's nice to see the face behind the mural that I've had for years.
That's so cool. That was that was kind of like that was kind of one of the first times where I was able to, growing up in Huntington, it was cool to be able to, have a mural on Main Street. And so that I did with another artist. And we did it together. And it was just cool because that's when I was really learning how to grow and like scale and, so it was a 3-part mural. And it was very dedicated to the client, like it was like, or not to the client, but it was like very Huntington specific, like with the railroad, Henry Huntington. And so that was a new experience for me too.
Yeah, embarrassing, but I didn't know who Henry Huntington was until I saw that mural. I was like,
what's so funny is we literally a few months ago, me and my wife and my in-laws, we went and stayed at this hotel in Pasadena, and there was a big painting in the lobby, and I was like, is that Henry Huntington? It looks exactly like the painting I painted in Huntington. Ended up being him. He founded this hotel and built it. And
whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Small world,
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Well, I read that your grandma was a fashion designer and your grandpa was a cartoonist. So how did this inspire your career if it did at all?
Yeah, so like growing up, if you knew my grandma and my grandpa, they both had a lot of energy. And I always was like, man, like they are so just motivated to do life. Like they're motivated to be around family. They're motivated to work. And not till probably, I want to say middle school or maybe even early high school, I had learned that my grandma was a textile artist. She sold a lot of pattern work to like companies like Chanel, a lot of like couture companies. And so she would come up with like these weave patterns and she would sell them to these high-end, companies. And then my grandpa was a full-time illustrator, and he had a full-time position at the Denver Post. He did a lot of stuff for the NY Post, and during the time where he was doing that, it was like I think Richard Nixon was in office, so a lot of his illustrations were like the historic politician, cartoons that you just see, on maybe Pinterest now, but, he created all this and that was his full-time job. And what's wild is my grandma and grandpa both had, let's see, I have 4 aunties and then my dad. So they had 5 children and they were they lived in Peru at the time. And so they both had that dream of like, hey, we want to move to America and scale up what we're doing. And so they moved here with their 5 children and were successful. And it was pretty amazing. If you look up my grandpa on Google, Raul Rossell, like all these Getty pictures come up and it kind of tells a little bit about his story. It has a picture of my dad and his 4 sisters, and it's just pretty inspiring to know that like, man, they did it, and so my grandpa also my grandma was a tango teacher, so she not only did all this, but she was really into dancing, and she would balance doing both. And then my grandpa was like full-time illustrator for like the Post magazine, or, at the time it was a newsletter, print that would come out on print weekly. But he did a lot of, commissions for like Muhammad Ali, the Pope. A lot of his big, he helped create like, we have original slides of the Jungle Book. At a time he worked with Disney. So we have like original slides from the first original Jungle Book that he helped with. Obviously it's a big team of people, but he was a part of that team. The Smurfs, he was a part. Yeah, it's like pretty wild. And yeah, it's for me, it was always a big motivator to just keep pushing through, because it's like they did it,
Yeah,
So
it's like literally in your blood.
yeah.
Yeah.
And my mom too is a really, growing up, like we would want certain things. If it was like a mural on our wall, or we wanted, if it was like our dirt bike or a BMX bike or something, we wanted something customized. My mom would like DIY it for us.
Whoa.
So it was always just kind of like my family always embraced doing art, and
Yeah.
it definitely runs through me and, my whole family's blood, but, me and Colin, my brother, it definitely runs in our blood. So,
Wow. Well, so
yeah.
how did you come up with your characters Stink and the Hairy Fools?
Okay. So how Stink came about was, I got asked to be in a group art show. It
Mhm.
was called Show of Hands, and it was sponsored by Hurley. And I think I was a junior in high school, and um, I had never done an art show before.
Mhm.
And I remember talking to the guy who curated the show. I was like, so like, what do I need to like do for this? And he's like,
Mhm.
well, it'd be cool if you did like 4 or 5 paintings for the show. And so, what I did was I created like four or 5 paintings for this show.
Mhm.
I need to do one more painting. And the last painting, I drew like a little hairy guy with, I think it was just with pencil. And then maybe I added a little watercolor or something at the time. And then I wrote like Stink was here or something. And after that, everybody like loved this little just doodle drawing. And like there was not really that much thought, that went behind it. It just was like something I would draw in like a textbook or something.
Huh.
And everybody after that started calling me Stink. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to start drawing a little character named Stink. And so that's how Stink came about. And then Harry Fools came about when I started traveling a lot. And so I started
Mm.
traveling a lot, doing murals. And so like, people like, Jack Surfboards, who I did the mural in Huntington, these early murals kind of gave me that platform to be able to have a portfolio, to where I was able to
Um,
start traveling and showcasing like, hey, this is what I can do. And so
yeah.
from there, I came up with the Harry Fools, because I was really inspired. I'm always inspired by like street graffiti and stuff like that, and having like a skate crew, a surf crew. And so Harry Fools was like kind of a fun way to play off of like Stink and his friends. And so it's like Stink and the Harry Fools. So anybody can be a part of the club. And so
Oh,
that's how that came about.
that's so cool. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of really, I saw a clip on your Instagram where you mentioned how you started pitching artwork to the brand as early as your sophomore year in high school,
Mhm.
which is so brave to be able to do that as a sophomore. What
Mhm.
prompted that?
Um, so at the time, I had a few buddies that either like surfed,
Mhm.
like they were sponsored surfers or sponsored skateboarders. And so I would always go with them to get like their walkthroughs. They'd get like their monthly
Huh.
walkthroughs, and I would be, I'd go with them, and I was like, man, this would be so cool to like be a part of this, but like, what could I do? And
Yeah.
so, being a sophomore in high school, I was like, man, like I was okay at surfing, and I was okay at skateboarding. And I just was like, man, what could I do to like kind of get a walkthrough, or what could I do to stand out, in my own
Yeah.
way? And so I started like bringing my black books, like when I would be in school or at home after, class and stuff like that. I would like, um, have these black books that I would draw like Volcom, Hurley, Billabong. I would literally draw like everybody I wish or wanted to work with. I would do like these graphics, and then I would go on the computer and I'd mock them up and make them look like a T-shirt or make them look
Oh,
like a hoodie. And so I would literally go in like weekly, and I bring my black books. I bring these like little printouts and be like, hey, what about like me getting my own like collaboration? And so I would do it all the time. And the first few times they were like, no,
oh,
this is cool. But then like literally like one time I went in and they're like, hey, they came to me. They're like, hey, we want to do like a capsule with you. If it's like three
oh,
pieces, if it's five pieces. And I was like, let's do it. I literally opened up my books. I was like, I have the artwork. It's ready. And so that was like the first time where, I was able to make money off of my art. It wasn't a
wow.
lot, but I literally sold a graphic to a brand that I admired, and that's how it started.
How cool.
And then like, man, I want to say maybe 6 months later, my friend sent me a text picture. He was in Japan. He sent me a text photo of somebody wearing one of those shirts in Japan, like in the wild.
Oh
And
my God.
like, I have goosebumps right now saying that. I just was like, oh my gosh, like this is awesome. And so that just put me on fire. And I
Yeah.
was like, let's go. This is awesome.
And
So
you're like, what, 15, 16 at this
yeah, I
point?
was 50.
So
I think I
young.
was like 15. Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe
Yeah.
14, 15. I graduated. I don't know if I didn't skip a grade, but I graduated I think I graduated when I was 15, turned 16. So I think I'm probably
Whoa.
14. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that leads perfectly into my next question. So, I also read that you chose to forego college to focus on your art. Can you talk a bit about this decision and how that felt in the moment? I mean, it makes sense. I would do the same thing at that point if I was already working with Hurley. But
Yeah. I, growing up, it's like you go to school, you go to high school, and then you go to college. And so
mhm,
I was just trying to kind of follow those steps of life.
right.
Um, and so what was cool too is my parents have always since day one been supportive of art. And so for me, it was like they weren't even really like so much like, hey, you need to go to college.
Mhm.
They were like, you know, they were always just like, hey, your art, like there's something there. But in my mind, in my heart, I was like, I need to go to college. And so first day at the time I was working at Becker Surf Shop, which was like,
Oh yeah.
it was in Seacliff Center, right across street from um, Huntington High. And at the time I was working full time, and then I signed up for, I think it was Golden West College. I was like, okay, I'm going to sign up for college. And what do I sign up for? Okay, I'll sign up for like history, math. So the basic courses. And from there, first day, I was like, oh man, like I don't know if I want to do this again,
Mhm.
this. And so I remember when I was in math class, this thought came over me where it was like, the right people, you have great people around you, mentors even, that are already doing this as a full-time job. Why don't you just work under that and build from
Mhm.
there? Literally, it was like the thought process while this guy was trying to run. I think he was trying to give us a math quiz. And I was like, on the first day? And so from there, I think I left. I think I walked out. I think I said, hey, I need to use the restroom. And I never came back because I was like, I think I can fast track where I see myself. And that's what I
Yeah.
did.
Literally. And well, so in 2016, you landed the co-creative director position at Levi's. What were you working on at the time?
So it was pretty amazing. So at the time, um, this guy that I'd worked with at Hurley had left and went and worked at Levi's. And so at the time, what was I doing? I had just released a this was crazy. I just released a 16 millimeter documentary with my buddy Riley Blakeway, who's a great filmmaker from Australia. We literally went to Detroit. I would go every summer, backtrack a little. My mom's side's from Michigan. And so every summer we'd go to Michigan to hang out with cousins and stuff. Once I started getting into graffiti and painting, hearing about Detroit, I was like, I want to go hang out with my family, and then I want to go painting. And so my buddy Riley was like, let's film a video of like behind the scenes, because this is pretty awesome that you fly out to Detroit, you hang with your family, but then you go paint all these free murals in like this town that is pretty much abandoned at the time.
Whoa.
And so that was a big thing we were doing. And so at 2016, I just put out that film, that documentary. And my buddy was like, hey, we want to fly you and Riley up to Levi's headquarters, introduce you to the brand. And like, we want your eyeballs. He was like, this film you created is the creative, the directing of it, just the whole visual is amazing. And we want this at Levi's. And so it started small. It was like, hey, let's work on some DIY, customization stuff and storytelling, that personalizing. And so it was kind of, I want to say it was like the first time you really started seeing, with Nike, you could do Nike ID, at Levi's or these other brands. It was like starting to personalization is everything, And so for me and my wife, we had always, we still to this day, we're like, what can we do to where we can like work with brands, but then like do our thing, And so we always love like personalization and stuff like that, and just making it yourself. Because backtrack to when I was in high school, when I would do these group shows and stuff, I would always I would sew clothes and alter clothes to make an outfit for like the night of the art show, And so that's like very early on, I even realized like what we were building and what we were creating. And that's kind of like how the whole Levi scene kind of started. Started from something small and then grew into like, hey, we want you guys to help in the retail and doing a collaboration and helping with Complex Con. And, it's just,
oh my God,
it's been an amazing, we still talk with the brand and do stuff, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's wild because in the following year, you worked as the co-creative director. Oh, sorry. You worked as Nike's creative director, and you led creative direction for Nike Go Skate Day and painted more than 50 murals, which is wild. But how did you come into this role?
Kind of same thing. I think, listening to podcasts and listening to people and reading books and stuff, you realize that like stuff in your life really just it doesn't fall into your lap, but it really like the more you go out daily and you go get, you go get it, you go climb your mountain, literally, it everything kind of falls into your life, properly how it's supposed to. And with this, like even with the Nike thing, it was what was so cool was the guy who hired me for that whole Nike Go Skate Day and doing all this. He started out as a sales rep for Nike. Had when I worked at Becker, everything's connected too, which is amazing. When I worked at Becker, he was a sales rep for Nike. Nike was really trying to pitch this new, they have Nike SB, Nike Sportswear. They came out Nike 6.0, which was tailored towards action sports, surfing, skating, snowboarding, skiing, surfing. And so he would come in and be like, he would give us shoes and give us product like, hey, like you guys should carry this in the store. And I just at the time was a Grom and was like, cool, like free stuff. This is amazing. And so he worked so hard that he moved up, he was pretty high at Nike SB. And just having that long time relationship, he was like, hey, there's an opportunity. We're doing Nike Go Skate Day in LA, and we'd like you to be the featured artist, which was just like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And so that's how that happened. And, I'm so blessed to be able to just work with friends and stuff and longtime people that they just, hey, here's an idea. We think you're perfect for it. And
Yeah.
I'm just so stoked. So,
Ah, what an amazing, that's so flattering. Well, I'm so excited to talk about this one. The next year, you became co-creative director at Warner Brothers, and you made this mural for Space Jam 2 in New York on a basketball court. I was like, that photo is incredible. And I was looking at it, I was
thank
like, my
you.
back would be gone. Like, how did you do that? Like,
Oh man, we go in life, go for everything.
yeah.
Don't let somebody put you in a box. At the time we were, me and my wife, Dee, she goes by
Mhm.
Dee, her full name's Adriana. We were, um, we had just got engaged.
Aw.
We were working, we work together on everything, especially if it's mural work, because I really count on her. She counts on me. Like we work so well together that, we were newly engaged. Warner Brothers, we had worked with on a few other projects prior, but they were like, hey, we have this opportunity. We're coming out with a new movie, Space Jam 2, with like LeBron James being the, kind of like the new Michael Jordan of today. And, so we need a mural for it. We want to create buzz around this movie. And so, they pitched an idea of doing a basketball court, and me and Dee were like, let's do it. Like, we said yes to it,
Mhm.
and not, it took maybe like a few hours after saying yes that we were like, wait, we've never painted a basketball court before. And this isn't just like shapes and colors and stuff. This is like other, this is other licensed characters where it's like,
Right.
you can't mess up. This isn't like my Harry characters. This is like our interpretation of like Looney Tunes. And so
Yeah.
we were like, well, we can't like back out. We already said yes to this. And so, from there, we spent every night, like we'd spend hours. We'd go into like, the middle of the night, and we'd just be drawing these court concepts. It took about 6 months to finally
Whoa.
lock in what we were doing for it,
Yeah.
and so once we locked it in, that's when it was like the print time. It was like, let's go. So we literally went to New York. We this is another thing too. I mean, I could even just go off on a tangent on like the whole experience with that, but to kind of, summarize it, it was like such a big opportunity for us. We pull up to the court, and we're like, it's just black. We're like, wait, there's no lines. Like,
Oh.
we're like, this is just asphalt. I'm like, I don't know where the free throw line is. I don't know where the half. So me and Dee looked at each other like, we're okay. Like, we have to paint it, but like, where do we paint it? Like, because
Right.
people, this isn't just a wall that people look at and admire. People like actively play on this court.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so, so me and Dee literally, we were Googling professional basketball court dimensions, half court line, 3-pointer. We had literally for 3 days did a math equation on this black tar pit.
Oh man.
And from there, once we got the kind of guidelines of what we were doing, we started snapping our lines. We started snapping our lines, and then we started laying down a base coat. And then from there, we started putting the characters together and doing stuff like that. But everybody, when they look at it, they're like, but how did you get the proportions right? And that was like our
Yeah.
biggest stressor, because I was like, I can't do Bugs Bunny with like one eye is smaller than the other. He's looking a weird way. He looks kind of bootleg.
Right.
I have to do this proper because this has Warner Brothers name on it. And so
Yeah.
me and Dee, this is where it's like, we work so well together. Like, I found the biggest boom lift in New York City. It was, I think, 50 or 60 feet high. I went up, and, and so what we did was I would call her on the phone, and she would be on the ground level because she's scared of heights. And also too, we had to kind of do it together. And so I would just tell her like how to draw it. So we would get kind of like the gist of Sylvester, or like the kind of basic sketch of bugs. And then I would go up there on the phone and be like, we need to move the eye over this way. We need to move. Like, we had to work like that because we needed it done right. And so it took 14 days, and it was just me and Dee. Yeah.
Actually, that's pretty. 14 days. I thought you were going to say it took a couple of months. That's really impressive for only 2 weeks.
It's pretty wild because we had, after we had done that court, we got so much exposure. A lot of people were reaching out to us, like even Nike. They're like, when you guys are back from New York, we want to sit down and talk about doing a basketball court. And when we sat down with them, they were like, how many people did that basketball court? And I was like, oh, just me and Dee. And they're like, how many days? And I was like, 14 days. And they're like, you realize when we pay somebody to do a court, it's like a team of 30 people. And it was just, me and Dee looked at each other like, what? Are you serious? And so I just sort of like, oh man, it was just so awesome. And it was so stressful and emotional. We probably cried a few times doing it because it just was raining, hot. It was like,
oh no, the rain.
It was like, they said out there that it was like the desert heat. I can't even think of the desert they were comparing it to, like Mojave Desert or something.
Yeah.
With like this crazy heat. It was wild to be out there on the ground painting on this hot black floor. Yeah. And then it would be the crazy rain. So another thing too is the way the court was set up. When it would rain, it would flood. So like a few of the days, the court would be underwater like a lot. And so then when it would dry up the next day, it would have like a weird kind of murky stain on it. So we'd have to repaint a lot of it was a big job, but
yeah, only 2 weeks though. Still, that's crazy.
I know. We kind of work fast, which is like what we're kind of known for. And it's just like, I don't know. There's people that, kind of take their time, which is cool. But me and Dee, when we do these big jobs, I think we're so driven and we're just so motivated to do it that we do it like fast.
Yeah.
We do it well.
And you guys make a great team, obviously. Well, can you talk a bit about Rossell Studios and the different services that you guys offer?
Yeah. So we started Rossell Studios a little bit over a year ago. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to we get asked a lot by brands, and, if it's a smaller company or bigger company, or we get asked by, collectors, or even just a general public will ask like for murals or for some type of, creative work. And so we started Rossell Studios to just kind of help where if somebody's like, they want, if it's like an event or something like that, they can hire Rossell Studios and we'll come and do like a cool event for you. If it's like some personalization event, or if you want just like a mural, like we get reached out to a lot by a city, like cities and stuff. Like we could help you, create a concept for a mural for a city. And so that's what Rossell Studios is. And so that's what we're building today. We're building like the official headquarters for Rossell Studios. And so it's been a lot of work. And, we just want to offer everything from our wedding to our commercial work we just want to be able to offer our hard work to people. And so that's what Rossell Studios platform is. So
I love that. Well, is there anything that you want listeners to keep an eye out for this coming year, in addition to your headquarters for your studio?
Yeah. We're working on a few really big art shows coming up. I'm really inspired to paint again. And so I've been painting a lot. So I would just be looking out for that and looking out for, when we're open and, getting in there and, we'll help you guys out. So.
Very cool. Well, we're
Yeah.
coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have three final questions for you that we call the thoughtful three. So, first, what advice do you have for fellow artists who want to work with brands but aren't sure how to get started?
Um, so I would say the best thing is when I was younger, even to today, right now, outreach is everything,
Hmm.
helping people out, helping companies out. And so putting yourself out there. Don't ever feel like um, it's not a good time. Don't ever feel like um, maybe too cool, or
Hmm.
just offer a hand, like a helping hand, literally. Um, and showing your work, it's like somebody showing their music to a, recording studio or a big artist. It's that same thought process of just show your paintings or show your work, because somebody that maybe isn't at a position where they can, hire you at that time, down the line will
Yeah,
will email you or phone you and say, we need you for this. So timing's everything. So that's what I would say. Show your
definitely.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what was the best advice that you received when you were first starting out?
Mm, I would say the best advice was there wasn't like a lot of, there wasn't a lot of like, guardrails, and it was more just
Hmm.
like, do your thing. It was like, just kind of like, just vibe off of what you're doing. That really helped me create my style, which is
Mm,
everything. And so, um, sometimes I would get, to this day, I get frustrated with certain things I make because it's not what I had envisioned,
yeah.
but it's like, just keep working on it. It's like going to the gym. I always tell people, it's like the more you go to the gym, the more you look fit, the more you feel
Yeah.
better. So it's like with drawing or painting, or even your, I try to talk to, like, I'm talking to, everyone. Like, if you're a lawyer or a singer, it's like, you gotta go. If you're singing, you gotta do singing classes. You gotta use
Yeah.
your voice, take care of your voice. So it's the same thing, like with drawing and painting. It's like, paint daily, draw daily, think creative all the time, because that just keeps me in my happy place. It keeps me creating great work for myself and for clients. So,
Yeah, definitely. I can relate. Like in writing, there's a book that I read and it's called like The Ugly First Draft. And I used to
yeah.
write and be like, that's not right. And like keep editing the same sentence. And she was like, get it all out and then come back to it the next day. So
Yeah.
it's like, I just keep doing it, but don't get hung up on the little details.
Yeah. It's
It's
almost
hard
like,
not to.
it's like, I don't know if you've used like AI stuff like ChatGPT.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
like the thought process is there, but you got to
Hmm.
go in and critique it and edit it down. It's that same thing. Like, I'll draw something that maybe isn't really how I wanted it. But then when I
Hmm.
go back to it a day later or a couple years later, I'm like, oh, the thought process was there. I just need to change it a little. And then boom, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
It's so helpful going back to something rather than just like staying, like I can so hyperfixate on something, but coming back later always helps.
yeah,
Perspective. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then lastly, what about the worst advice or advice that you chose not to follow, which ended up helping, I guess?
Uh, I would say, I would say maybe it wasn't advice, but
Mm.
I thought in my life that I had to, um, like when I went back to like the school thing, like talking about
Mhm.
school and stuff, everybody's path is written different. And so, as much as maybe somebody like, at the time, like if your parents are pressuring something and maybe you want to do something else, not like, not being like, no, I'm not going to do that, but just knowing that like your path or your life is written different than the person next to you or than your siblings, and just really like following. I mean, it's really within your gut too. Like, if you're motivated to do something, and I think you should follow that.
Yeah.
And it might be the path that people maybe are fighting against, but I think if you have that inner burn to push forward, I think that's what you should choose.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Because in my life, I've gotten a lot of good. I've had a lot of good people around me. So
Mhm.
I just try to stay focused on that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It was so fun to get
Thank
to
you,
talk with you.
Chelsea.
And yeah, I finally put a face behind the murals that I've been seeing for years. So
Thank you so much.
yeah, of course.